You're pathetic. Get out of my sight. Justin, help me out.
Mistress pushed wife to the pool, unaware she's the president's wife. What he did next. Distinguished viewers, welcome to Luxury True Life Stories. Please like and subscribe for more amazing real-life luxury stories. Now, let's get into the story. Mara Richard grew up in a quiet seaside town far from the glittering cities where powerful people lived their complicated lives. The town was small, filled with narrow cobblestone streets, modest homes, and the constant soothing sound of waves striking the rocky shoreline. Mara's family lived in a small but warm house painted pale blue, a house that had been in her family for generations. Her father, Daniel Richard, worked as a skilled boat mechanic at the harbour, repairing fishing boats that returned from long days at sea. Her mother, Eliza Richard, worked as a seamstress who carefully stitched clothes for neighbours and local shop owners. Though their income was modest, their home was always filled with laughter, kindness, and lessons about integrity. From a young age, Mara showed a quiet determination that set her apart from many of the children around her. While others dreamed of leaving school early to help their families or work at the docks, Mara spent long evenings reading books borrowed from the town library. She loved stories about successful people who rose from humble beginnings through perseverance and honesty. Her teachers often praised her discipline and intelligence, believing she had the potential to achieve far more than a small town could offer. Mara herself never spoke loudly about her dreams, but deep inside she wished to build a life where her parents would never have to struggle again. Despite the financial limitations her family faced, Mara never felt poor in spirit. Her parents had raised her to value kindness, humility, and hard work above all else. Daniel Richard often told her that life would present both kindness and cruelty, but a person's character determined how they survived both. Eliza Richard encouraged her daughter to remain compassionate even when the world seemed unfair. These lessons shaped Mara into a young woman who carried grace and resilience in equal measure. None of them could have imagined that the quiet girl from their small seaside town would one day find herself standing in the center of power, surrounded by wealth, betrayal, and a destiny far greater than any of them had ever imagined. Mara Richard left her quiet seaside town to attend a prestigious university in a large European city. The change was overwhelming at first. The streets were crowded, the buildings tall and modern, and the people moved quickly as if time itself chased them. Mara remained focused on her studies, determined not to waste the opportunity her parents had sacrificed so much to give her. She spent most of her time in the university library, studying business and management, hoping one day to build a stable career. It was during one of the university's networking events that Mara first met Timothy Coleman. Timothy Coleman was the complete opposite of Mara. He came from a wealthy and influential family known in elite business circles. His father, Harold Coleman, was a powerful investor who believed his success meant power, reputation, and control. Timothy had grown up surrounded by luxury, private schools, and influential connections. At the event, he stood confidently among other students, charming everyone with his easy smile and confident voice. When Timothy noticed Mara standing quietly near the refreshment table, he was curious about the calm, intelligent woman who seemed uninterested in impressing anyone. The conversation began simply but quickly became engaging. Mara spoke honestly about her small-town upbringing and her dreams of building a meaningful life. Timothy was surprised by her sincerity and found it refreshing compared to the competitive personalities he usually met. Over the following weeks, they began spending more time together, studying, walking through the city, and sharing stories about their different worlds. Mara believed she had met someone who truly admired her for who she was, while Timothy felt drawn to her kindness and authenticity, something he had rarely encountered in his ambitious and demanding world. As months passed, Mara and Timothy grew closer. What started as simple conversations after class slowly turned into long walks through the city's historic streets and quiet evenings at small cafes. Mara admired Timothy's confidence and ambition, believing he had the ability to build something meaningful in the world. Timothy, on the other hand, enjoyed the calm presence Mara brought into his life. Unlike many people in his social circle who constantly spoke about wealth and influence, Mara spoke about purpose, kindness, and building a life that mattered. Timothy soon introduced Mara to his group of friends and colleagues. Many of them came from wealthy families and were used to luxury and prestige. At first, Mara felt out of place among them, but her natural grace and intelligence quickly earned their respect. Some admired how grounded she was, while others quietly wondered how a woman from such a modest background had captured Timothy's attention. Timothy often praised Mara publicly, saying she was the most genuine person he had ever met. To many outsiders, they seemed like the perfect couple. As their relationship deepened, Mara began to imagine a future with Timothy. She believed their love was built on honesty and shared dreams. Timothy spoke often about building a powerful business empire one day, and Mara supported him wholeheartedly. In return, he promised her that no matter how successful he became, he would never forget the values that brought them together. Those promises made Mara feel safe and hopeful, unaware that ambition and influence would one day test everything they believed about love. After several years together, Timothy decided it was time to take the next step. One evening he invited Mara to a beautiful restaurant overlooking the city lights. The atmosphere was calm and elegant, with soft music playing in the background. As they finished dinner, Timothy reached into his pocket and presented a small velvet box. Inside was a shining ring. With confidence and a charming smile, he asked Mara to marry him. Surprised and emotional, Mara happily accepted, believing their love had reached a beautiful new beginning. Their wedding was held a few months later in a grand venue arranged by Timothy's influential family. The ceremony was elegant and attended by powerful business partners, politicians, and social figures connected to the Coleman family. Mara's parents traveled from their small town and watched proudly as their daughter walked down the aisle. Though the environment felt very different from the simple life she had known, Mara felt hopeful as she promised her future to Timothy. To the guests, the marriage looked like a perfect union between love and success. After the wedding, Mara moved into Timothy's luxurious home in the city. At first, life seemed exciting and full of possibility. However, as weeks passed, Timothy became increasingly busy with business meetings, social events, and networking with powerful people. Mara tried to support him and adjust to the demanding lifestyle of his world. She believed the changes were simply part of building a successful future together, unaware that small cracks had already begun forming beneath the surface of their seemingly perfect marriage. As months passed, the excitement of marriage slowly faded into a routine that felt different from what Mara had imagined. Timothy's work became the center of his life. He attended endless meetings, traveled frequently, and spent long evenings at exclusive gatherings with wealthy investors and influential figures. Mara often waited for him at home, preparing quiet dinners and hoping they would spend time together. Sometimes Timothy returned late and exhausted, offering only brief conversations before focusing again on his business plans. Mara tried to adapt to the lifestyle of Timothy's elite social circle. She attended formal dinners, charity galas, and business celebrations where powerful people discussed influence and money. While Mara remained polite and graceful, she noticed that many people judged others based on status rather than character. Timothy seemed increasingly comfortable in that world. He spoke more about power, reputation, and expanding his influence. Mara began to sense a subtle change in him, as if ambition was slowly becoming more important than the simple values they once shared. Though Timothy never openly mistreated Mara, his attention toward her gradually faded. Conversations became shorter, and the warmth that once defined their relationship felt distant. Mara sometimes wondered if she had done something wrong, but she remained supportive, believing that difficult seasons could appear in any marriage. She reminded herself of the promises Timothy once made and hoped that once his business stabilized, their life together would return to the love and closeness they once shared. Unfortunately, the challenges ahead were only beginning. During one of Timothy's high-profile business events, a new figure began appearing frequently in his social circle. Her name was Sonia Nathaniel, a confident and striking woman known in elite circles for her charm and ambition. Sonia came from a wealthy background and had built a reputation for moving easily among powerful people. She understood how influence worked, and she used her intelligence and elegance to position herself close to successful businessmen and investors. Timothy first met Sonia at a private investment dinner attended by several powerful entrepreneurs. Sonia spoke with confidence and carried herself with the calm assurance of someone used to attention. During the evening she showed great interest in Timothy's growing business ventures, asking questions and praising his strategies. Timothy enjoyed the admiration and found her energy exciting. Over the next few weeks they met again at several social gatherings, each time speaking longer and becoming more comfortable around one another. Mara noticed Sonia's presence soon afterward during a formal charity event Timothy had asked her to attend. Sonia greeted Mara politely, but there was something about her smile that felt distant and calculating. As the evening continued, Mara observed Sonia and Timothy speaking privately several times, laughing and sharing conversations that seemed unusually familiar. Mara tried to ignore the uneasy feeling forming inside her, telling herself it was simply part of Timothy's expanding professional network. Yet deep down, she sensed that Sonia Nathaniel had entered their lives for a reason that might not be as harmless as it appeared. Sonia Nathaniel quickly became a regular presence in Timothy's business world. She attended many of the same investment meetings, private dinners, and exclusive gatherings where influential people discussed opportunities and partnerships. Sonia had a remarkable ability to make people feel important, and she often praised Timothy's ambition and intelligence. Timothy, who had always enjoyed recognition, found her admiration encouraging. Their conversations became longer and more personal as they spent more time at the same events. Mara slowly began to notice the change. Timothy started mentioning Sonia more frequently during casual conversations at home. At first, he described her simply as a business contact who had strong connections in powerful financial circles. However, Mara observed that Timothy seemed unusually interested whenever Sonia's name appeared in discussions. Sometimes Timothy would return home late from meetings, explaining that he had stayed longer to discuss business opportunities with important partners. Mara tried to remain trusting, reminding herself that Timothy's growing career required him to build many relationships. At social events, Sonia behaved politely toward Mara, but often carried herself with quiet confidence, as if she already belonged in Timothy's world more naturally than Mara did. On several occasions Mara noticed Sonia speaking privately with Timothy while guests mingled nearby. Though nothing openly inappropriate happened, the closeness between them created a quiet tension. Mara kept her concerns to herself, hoping that the uneasiness she felt was only a misunderstanding. Unfortunately, what she sensed as a possibility was slowly becoming a reality that would soon change everything in their lives. As Timothy's business reputation continued to grow, the number of social gatherings he attended increased. These events were often filled with wealthy investors, entrepreneurs, and influential personalities who enjoyed displaying their success. Mara accompanied Timothy to many of these gatherings, doing her best to remain graceful despite feeling slightly uncomfortable in such competitive social environments. She dressed elegantly but simply, never trying to compete with the extravagant fashion choices of many guests. Sonia Nathaniel, however, seemed completely at home in those elite settings. She arrived at events wearing luxurious outfits and carried herself with a confidence that naturally drew attention. Gradually, Sonia began making subtle comments about Mara during conversations with other guests. Sometimes she would politely question Mara about her background, asking about the small town where she grew up or the modest work her parents did. Although Sonia spoke with a smile, the tone of her words often carried a quiet sense of mockery that some guests noticed but rarely addressed. One evening at a prestigious gala, Sonia openly embarrassed Mara during a conversation with several investors. With a calm voice, Sonia joked that it must be difficult for someone from such a simple background to adjust to the lifestyle of powerful business families. A few people laughed awkwardly, unsure how to respond. Mara felt her face grow warm with embarrassment but chose to remain composed. She politely changed the subject and continued the evening without showing anger. Timothy noticed the moment but remained silent, unwilling to challenge Sonia in front of his influential associates. That silence hurt Mara more deeply than the humiliation itself. The tension in Mara and Timothy's marriage slowly grew stronger. Conversations between them became shorter and colder, often ending with silence instead of understanding. Mara tried several times to speak honestly about her concerns, especially about Sonia's growing presence in Timothy's life. Each time she asked questions, Timothy dismissed her worries and insisted she was imagining problems that did not exist. His tone carried impatience, as if the discussion itself was an inconvenience. Meanwhile, Sonia continued to appear more frequently beside Timothy at business meetings and social gatherings. Many people within their circle quietly began assuming that Sonia had become one of Timothy's closest partners. Rumors started spreading among influential guests that Mara no longer fit comfortably into Timothy's ambitious world. Mara heard whispers during events and noticed how some people looked at her with curiosity, as if they were waiting for something inevitable to happen. Eventually Timothy made a decision that shocked Mara deeply. Influenced by pressure from his family and encouraged by Sonia's growing closeness to him, Timothy requested a divorce. The legal process moved quickly and felt cold and impersonal. Mara was forced to leave the luxurious home they once shared and start again on her own. For Timothy, the separation appeared like a strategic move toward a more powerful future. For Mara, it felt like the painful end of a chapter she had once believed would last forever. After the painful divorce, Mara chose to leave the city that held so many difficult memories. She moved to another large European city known for its cultural beauty and quieter lifestyle. At first, everything felt unfamiliar again, just like when she had left her hometown years earlier. However, Mara carried with her the resilience her parents had taught her. Instead of allowing the past to define her future, she focused on rebuilding her life step by step. Mara eventually found work at a humanitarian charity foundation that helped struggling families and supported educational programs for disadvantaged children. The work was meaningful and reminded her of the values she had grown up with. She spent long days helping organize community projects, meeting families in need, and coordinating volunteers. Unlike the glamorous events she once attended with Timothy, these efforts were quiet but deeply fulfilling. Mara began to feel a sense of peace returning to her life. Through the charity foundation, Mara also met several kind people who respected her dedication and humility. Among them was Lydia Carter, an energetic coordinator who quickly became one of Mara's closest friends in the new city. Lydia admired Mara's strength and often encouraged her to believe that life still held many unexpected opportunities. Slowly, Mara's confidence returned. Though the past had wounded her deeply, she was beginning to understand that sometimes endings quietly prepare the way for completely new beginnings. Around the same time Mara was rebuilding her life at the charity foundation, the country was led by a respected and disciplined president named Joshua Clifford. Known for his calm leadership and thoughtful decisions, Joshua had earned the admiration of many citizens. Despite holding the most powerful position in the nation, he lived a surprisingly private life. Years earlier, he had lost his first wife to illness, and since then he had focused almost entirely on public service and national responsibilities. Joshua often supported humanitarian organizations across the country, believing that leadership meant caring for ordinary people as much as managing government affairs. One afternoon he visited the charity foundation where Mara worked, quietly observing the programs that helped struggling families and children. Mara was responsible for presenting the foundation's latest community project to the visiting officials. She spoke clearly and sincerely about the importance of education and opportunity for disadvantaged youth. Joshua listened carefully as Mara explained the project with calm confidence and genuine compassion. Unlike many presentations he attended, Mara's words were not driven by politics or recognition. Her passion came from real experience and empathy. After the meeting ended, Joshua briefly approached her to thank her for the work she and the foundation were doing. Their conversation was short but meaningful. For Joshua, it was rare to meet someone whose character felt so genuine. For Mara, it was simply a respectful interaction with an important leader, never imagining that this meeting would eventually change the direction of her life. After the visit to the charity foundation, President Joshua Clifford continued supporting several of the organization's community programs. Because Mara coordinated many of those projects, their paths occasionally crossed during official visits and planning meetings. Each encounter remained respectful and professional, yet Joshua gradually noticed something special about Mara's character. She spoke honestly, worked tirelessly, and never tried to impress powerful people. Her focus was always on helping the people the foundation served. Mara, on the other hand, simply saw Joshua as a thoughtful leader who genuinely cared about the community programs he supported. During meetings, she treated him with the same calm professionalism she showed everyone else. Sometimes they exchanged brief conversations about education projects, volunteer programs, or ways to improve the charity's outreach. Joshua appreciated how naturally Mara spoke, without the nervous admiration that many people showed when meeting someone of his position. Over time, their conversations became slightly longer whenever they met at project events or charity gatherings. Joshua admired Mara's resilience and quiet strength, sensing that she had faced difficulties yet continued to move forward with dignity. Mara noticed Joshua's kindness and humility, qualities she had rarely seen among powerful figures in the past. Neither of them rushed the connection forming between them. Instead, their friendship grew slowly and naturally, built on mutual respect, shared values, and a calm understanding that sometimes meaningful relationships begin in the most unexpected ways. As months passed, Mara and Joshua's friendship continued to grow through their shared involvement in humanitarian projects. They occasionally met during quiet planning sessions at the foundation or community visits where they observed the programs helping families and students. Joshua began to admire not only Mara's intelligence but also the compassion she showed toward everyone she met. She treated volunteers, children, and staff members with equal kindness, never seeking recognition for her work. Mara slowly noticed a different side of Joshua that the public rarely saw. Away from political stages and official speeches, he was thoughtful, patient, and surprisingly humble. He listened carefully when people spoke and often asked questions about their lives and experiences. During one long conversation after a community event, Mara shared parts of her past, including the painful divorce that had forced her to rebuild her life. Joshua listened quietly and respected the strength it had taken for her to move forward. Their connection gradually deepened beyond friendship. Joshua admired Mara's resilience and sincerity, while Mara found comfort in Joshua's calm wisdom and genuine care. Unlike her previous relationship, nothing between them felt rushed or complicated. Their feelings developed naturally, built on trust and understanding. Eventually, Joshua realized that Mara had quietly become an important part of his life. For Mara, the possibility of loving again felt both hopeful and frightening, but she could not ignore the peace she felt whenever she was around him. As their bond deepened, Joshua Clifford and Mara Richard began spending more time together away from public attention. Their conversations were no longer limited to charity projects. They spoke about life, values, and the future they both hoped to build. Joshua admired Mara's honesty and calm strength, while Mara appreciated the kindness and respect Joshua always showed her. Their relationship grew slowly and carefully, shaped by trust rather than excitement or pressure. Because of Joshua's position as president, his personal life was constantly watched by the media and political observers. He preferred to protect Mara from unnecessary public attention while their relationship developed. After many thoughtful conversations, Joshua asked Mara if she would consider building a life with him. The proposal was quiet and sincere, shared during a peaceful evening after they had visited a community education center together. Mara was surprised but deeply moved by his sincerity. Not long afterward, they were married in a private ceremony attended only by a few trusted friends and officials. The marriage remained confidential for the time being, allowing Mara to continue her work without sudden public scrutiny. Joshua planned to announce the marriage later when the time felt appropriate. For Mara, the moment felt like the beginning of a new chapter she never expected. After everything she had endured in the past, she had finally found a relationship built on genuine respect, patience, and understanding. Several months after their quiet wedding, President Joshua Clifford decided the time had come to introduce Mara to the public as his wife. He planned a grand evening gathering at his elegant presidential villa, a beautiful estate known for hosting important diplomatic and social events. The announcement would take place during a prestigious celebration attended by business leaders, government officials, international guests, and respected figures from different industries. For Joshua, the event was not only a formal gathering, but also a meaningful moment to proudly present Mara beside him. The preparations for the evening were carefully organized. The villa gardens were decorated with soft lights, elegant tables, and a magnificent pool area reflecting the evening sky. Staff members worked quietly to ensure every detail of the event was perfect. Mara wore a simple but graceful evening dress chosen for the occasion. She preferred elegance over extravagance and felt calm beside Joshua, trusting his decision to reveal their marriage in such an important setting. Among the many invited guests were also individuals from the business world, including Timothy Coleman and Sonia Nathaniel. They had received formal invitations through influential circles and were eager to attend such a prestigious gathering at the president's residence. Neither of them had any idea that Mara would be present there for a reason far more significant than they could imagine. As the evening began and guests started arriving at the villa, the stage was quietly being set for a moment that would soon surprise everyone in attendance. As the evening celebration at the presidential villa continued, guests mingled through the beautifully lit gardens, enjoying music and elegant conversation. The atmosphere was sophisticated and lively, filled with influential business leaders, diplomats, and respected public figures. Near the illuminated pool area, Mara stepped away briefly from the main crowd to enjoy a moment of quiet. She preferred calm spaces over crowded social gatherings and stood peacefully near the water, observing the reflections of the lights dancing across the surface. At that same moment, Timothy Coleman and Sonia Nathaniel were walking through the garden area, proudly greeting guests and enjoying the prestige of attending such an exclusive event. Sonia admired the luxurious setting, while Timothy quietly discussed potential business connections he hoped to make during the evening. As they approached the poolside walkway, Sonia suddenly noticed her familiar figure standing near the water. When she looked more closely, she recognized Mara. Surprised and slightly amused, Sonia whispered Timothy's name and pointed toward Mara. Timothy looked in the same direction and immediately recognized his former wife. Neither of them had expected to see her in such a prestigious place. Sonia assumed Mara must have been working there as part of the event staff or assisting with service arrangements. With a confident smile, Sonia walked toward Mara, followed by Timothy, both of them curious and ready to question what they believed was a strange and unexpected situation. Sonia Nathaniel approached Mara with the confident stride, her elegant heels clicking softly against the stone walkway beside the pool. Timothy followed a few steps behind, watching the scene with curious amusement. Sonia folded her arms and looked Mara up and down with a faint smile that carried clear mockery. The bright lights from the garden lamps reflected across the water, illuminating the moment as several nearby guests casually observed the interaction. "So you're here too," Sonia said calmly, though her tone carried quiet ridicule. She glanced at Mara's simple evening dress and shook her head slightly. Sonia assumed Mara must have been invited as part of the event staff or hired to assist the organizing team. Timothy chuckled softly and added that such prestigious gatherings were usually reserved for powerful guests, not people who had fallen out of influential circles. His voice carried the same dismissive attitude he once showed during their divorce. Mara remained calm despite the humiliation. She had no interest in arguing or defending herself in front of them. Sonia interpreted Mara's silence as embarrassment and stepped closer to the edge of the pool where Mara stood. With a careless motion, Sonia pushed Mara forward. Mara lost her balance and fell into the pool with a sudden splash. Timothy laughed loudly at the scene, believing it was nothing more than an amusing moment of embarrassment. Around them, several guests turned in surprise as the sound of the water echoed through the elegant garden. None of them realized that the next moments would change everything. The sudden splash drew the attention of many guests standing nearby. Conversations stopped as people turned toward the pool, surprised by the unexpected commotion. Mara emerged from the water, soaked but composed, holding the edge of the pool while regaining her balance. Some guests whispered among themselves, unsure what had just happened. Timothy continued laughing while Sonia brushed her hands lightly, appearing satisfied with what she had done. At that moment, a firm voice cut through the murmuring crowd. What happened here? President Joshua Clifford had arrived near the pool after hearing the disturbance from across the garden. His presence immediately silenced the surrounding guests. As his eyes moved across the scene, he quickly recognized Mara standing in the water. His calm expression instantly changed to visible anger, something few people had ever seen from the normally composed leader. Joshua stepped forward and spoke clearly so everyone could hear. "The woman you just pushed into that pool is my wife." The word stunned the entire gathering. Timothy's laughter stopped instantly, and Sonia's confident expression disappeared as the realization struck them. Within moments, security officers moved forward under Joshua's command and escorted both Timothy Coleman and Sonia Nathaniel away from the poolside. Guests watched in shocked silence as the two were formally detained, understanding that they had just witnessed a moment that would soon echo far beyond the walls of the presidential villa. The celebration at the presidential villa continued, but the mood had changed dramatically after the shocking scene by the pool. Guests quietly discussed what they had witnessed, many still stunned by the revelation that Mara Richard was the president's wife. News of the incident spread quickly among the influential figures present that evening. Timothy Coleman and Sonia Nathaniel, once confident and admired in elite social circles, were now the center of a scandal that none of them could ignore. After security escorted Mara away from the pool, staff members quickly provided her with warm towels and dry clothing. Joshua remained beside her, his earlier anger replaced with concern. He spoke gently, asking if she was all right and reassuring her that what had happened would not go unanswered. Mara appreciated his support but remained calm. She had faced humiliation before and had learned that dignity was stronger than anger. Meanwhile, Timothy and Sonia were held by security for questioning regarding their behavior at the official event. Their reputations, carefully built through years of networking and influence, began collapsing almost instantly. Many guests who had once admired them now viewed their actions with disappointment. The incident revealed more than a simple moment of cruelty. It exposed arrogance and disrespect in front of some of the most powerful people in the country. For Mara, however, the evening was no longer about revenge or embarrassment. It had become a clear reminder that the truth always reveals itself in time. The events at the presidential villa quickly became a major topic of discussion across influential circles and public media. What had started as a prestigious celebration had turned into a moment that revealed truth, character, and consequences. People who once admired Timothy Coleman and Sonia Nathaniel now spoke openly about the arrogance they had displayed that night. Their actions had not only embarrassed themselves but had also damaged the reputations they had spent years building. For Mara Richard, the moment marked the closing of a painful chapter of her life. Years earlier she had been humiliated, abandoned, and forced to rebuild her life from nothing. Standing beside President Joshua Clifford now, she realized how far she had come through resilience and quiet strength. She continued her work with the Charity Foundation, focusing on helping families and children who needed support. Her new position as the president's wife did not change her values. Instead, it gave her the opportunity to expand the programs she cared about even further. Joshua remained proud of Mara not because of the dramatic moment at the villa, but because of the character she had shown long before that night. Together they moved forward with a shared vision of service and compassion. The past, with all its betrayal and humiliation, slowly faded behind them. What remained was a future built on respect, trust, and new opportunities. For Mara, the journey that began in a small seaside town had finally led her to a life where dignity, kindness, and perseverance had shaped a truly meaningful new beginning. And that brings us to the end of today's story. The world of luxury often hides stories deeper than what meets the eye. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more captivating stories on Luxury Jewel Life Stories. Until our next story, take care and stay tuned for more.